I trust you're well and keeping safe, sir.
Doing good.
You're doing good. Good to
From
know.
Mother Ghana.
Yes. There was recently a court case regarding GMOs that quietly came to an end. What was the ultimate outcome for you? And for you and with the work you do on GMOs?
Well, so I like the fact that you said quietly. When this case started in 2015,
Yes.
there was a lot of uproar because a lot of misconceptions were traded out there about GMOs. The case was essentially to stop government agencies and institutions that were working on GMOs with going ahead to even research and ultimately to commercialize. But on Friday, the court ruled that you cannot stop science. Bob Marley said you cannot stop reggae. You cannot stop science. What we can do is to have it in a safe and responsive environment.
Yes.
And so there's a need to label, and labeling is to help with choice. And we are supposed to go out and educate people. Essentially, you fear what you don't know. And that's where we see the challenge with this new technology. A lot of people don't understand it, and so they fear it. And that's what we've been doing since Friday. We are going out talking to everybody and anybody who's willing to listen, that this technology is here to stay. It's here to help our agriculture to achieve the goals that we want for ourselves as a country. And it's a technology that we cannot close our eyes to. It's been around for over 50 years. It's produced food for eating for the last 30 years. And as a country, we cannot watch
Shy
it
away
pass
from
us.
it.
Yes.
Is it also a reality that we're already eating it, but we just don't know?
Well, so I will not shy away from that. But you see, when you're eating something, the question you ask yourself is it healthy? Is it
Yes.
safe? The safety and its health benefits are not questioned. You can check from any source. The World Health Organization, Ghana's FDA, all reputable food and drugs authorities across the world. I mean, it's safe for human consumption. What we need to do is to have effective regulation to ensure that scientists like myself who are working in this area are doing the right and proper thing, and the general public is educated on what we are doing.
And also doing okay. So let's get around to the education then. What are GMOs? Before we even get finicky about it, what are GMOs?
So in a nutshell, you and I are GMOs.
How so?
Anything that has had its genes modified, it's a GMO. It's a genetically modified organism.
So how have I been genetically modified?
So you are a modification of your mother and father. You have half of your mother's genes, half of your father's genes.
Organically
So,
produced.
well, when you say organically,
I was not produced in a lab.
Yes, but are all things produced in a lab bad?
No.
Yes.
But I'm only saying that there's a difference.
But you were probably
if you
produced
say
in
I'm
some
part of
different
GMO,
lab.
hold on. If you say I'm part of a GMO, technically speaking, I was organically made.
Yes.
A man and a woman came together in a bedroom,
Yes.
made love, conceived, and then I appeared.
Good.
Yes.
So
But GMOs are not by, I don't want to use the word coitus, but they are not typically, they don't just happen organically.
Good.
They happen through genetic modification in the lab.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I intentionally said you're a GMO because your mother and father went somewhere to produce you.
Yes.
They had an objective, and that's what scientists do when we produce GMOs. For us in this field, we actually don't like to use genetically modified organisms because every plant you know today is genetically modified. What we like to say is genetically engineered. What we are purposefully changing things to our advantage. And we've been doing it not today. We've been doing it since man discovered agriculture. We've been changing crops to our benefit. We've been doing conventional breeding. Whenever you hear CSIR has produced or released a new variety or atomic
Agric.
energy, yes, it's a change that has happened in the genetic makeup of that organism. In law, they say there's a term, nemo dat quod non habet. You cannot give what you don't have.
Yes.
So if you're seeing something on the outside, it's a result of what is in that organism. So even the Bible says, out of the abundance of the heart,
The mouth speaketh, yes.
So in GMOs, what we are doing is we have come to understand what DNA is, what certain segments of DNA do, and we can move them around. And it is not humans who started this. It's been going on for a long time, a very long time. If you look at the human genome, there are segments that we don't understand, and there are segments we know are coming from viruses, from bacteria. So whenever you face a virus, a part of it is left in you so that your body remembers it.
Yes.
Okay, so we have understood this, and we've realized that the base for life is the same. There are four bases for life: adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine.
What's that?
These are bases, and they form the DNA. So if you hear DNA, the whole DNA structure is made up of these A, G, C's, and T's.
Okay.
And so nature is such that you can move these around, and they are expressed, or they do the same work irrespective of where they find themselves.
Okay. But how are GMOs different from conventionally bred crops?
Good. So with conventionally bred crops, I am picking the pollen of, say, crop A, which has this variety, which has this trait, okay, maybe high yielding, and I'm crossing it with crop B, which is able to withstand a particular, say, insect or disease. I'll end up with a crop C, which is high yielding and resistant to these.
And that's a conventionally bred
That's
crop.
the conventionally bred
What's the
crop.
GMO then?
The GMO is, I want to do this same thing, but I'm looking at it at the genetic level. So, what is causing this plant to produce more of that fruit? What is causing this plant to produce that hormone or that trigger that is able to withstand the disease?
Okay.
And I'm crossing them at the genetic level. And that's the basic difference. We are moving from the physical to what is in there, and that from that we create GMOs.
Okay.
It's as simple as that. In the past, when we are crossing, you don't know the actual outcome. Yes, you know this has this trait, this has this trait. You are crossing them to get a mixed trait, but it takes a long time, sometimes up to 12 years, to come up with just one variety. The challenges we are facing with increasing population, with climate change, with reduced land size for agriculture, with the problems that we are having with farmers aging, we cannot wait 12 years for every new variety. So we need to use the tools, the knowledge that we are acquiring in this field. And it's interesting that almost every field of our lives has had some level of science affecting them. But when it comes to agriculture, people want us to shy away from it. We want us to wait till it is gone past where we can salvage it before we come to it. And that is what we scientists are not waiting to do. Let me use the issue of this COVID that we faced. Imagine if the world was not prepared to fight COVID. What happened with the Spanish flu would have happened with COVID. If scientists were not thinking ahead and we were waiting for something to happen before we ran around, what happened with the Spanish flu 100 years ago that wiped out almost a fourth of the world?
Yes.
Would have happened with us.
To us as well.
On COVID.
Oh dear.
And so we are forward thinking. We are looking at agriculture. In 2050, it's projected that we would have 10 billion people in the world. Africa alone, the population of Africa is going to increase by 90% over the next 26 years. Our land size for agriculture is reducing. And that is what we are trying to work with our farmers to do.
To try and
Yes.
sort out. Okay, so what are some of the most common misconceptions about GMOs?
The biggest one that we are facing currently, and I've been, just on Monday, I was on one webinar, is that we are going to lose seed sovereignty. I mean, why do you fear something and not prepare for it? So if we are afraid of losing seed sovereignty, why don't we push government to have us as scientists produce our own here in Ghana for ourselves? Why do we say because we are scared of seed sovereignty, we are going to just shy away from it? If you look at global commerce around GMOs, it's around 14 crops. most of those crops are not even traded here in Ghana. Those that are traded, they come in processed forms. So for our poultry industry, they are importing soy, maize in processed forms for our poultry industry. In Ghana, we can produce our own seeds. If you go to Savannah Agri Research Institute, they have come up with a new GM cowpea variety. They themselves have produced their seeds. They'll be giving it to seed traders who will be selling to farmers. And that's the biggest misconception that's going on. In the past, we had a lot of misconceptions, wild ones, that causes infertility. And this one I have an interesting story from it. There's a farmer in Burkina Faso who has 4 wives, and he's a big cotton farmer. And this misconception about causing infertility caused him to go in for GMO because he didn't want to use any of our conventional, how do you call it?
Breeding, cropping.
No,
Family
birth
planning
control.
options. Okay.
Yes. So for him, if I can grow this, make money from it, and still be able to, keep
Control
my
birth,
population,
yes.
I mean, I'm okay. That particular year, all his 4 wives
Got pregnant.
and he's one of the biggest people talking about GMOs now because the lies are too glaring.
Okay. Are seeds from GMO plants fit for replanting?
Yes. So that's another misconception a lot of people have. We have GMOs that are hybrid, and we can have a GMO that is open pollinated or even self pollinating. So, for example,
Are those in the norm or the exception?
pardon?
Are the hybrids more than the open pollen ones?
Yes. So usually hybrids tend to have a lot better traits, and a lot of traded seed today are hybrids.
Okay.
Now, typically hybrids are made from 2 different varieties, and so if you plant a hybrid and you buy an original hybrid from a certified seed seller, you would get your expected results. But if you plant the grain, and there's a difference between a seed and grain, if you plant the grain that is coming from that, what will happen is you may segregate. Segregation means that some will look like their father, some will look like their mother, and some will look like what you originally had. And so farmers are advised not to do that. And usually when you're keeping seeds and replanting, it's like marrying your sister. If there's a disease in your family, it gets pronounced. If there's a susceptibility to something, it gets more pronounced. And so even with conventional agriculture, we are telling people don't save seeds, come buy seeds. Agric is business, and you need to invest in your business. And if you're not ready to invest in seed, I mean, and when it comes to GMOs, we say that, okay, I'm selling GMO. If you don't see the benefit of it, don't come and buy.
Yeah.
But if you buy and you make profit, it is just right as a businessman to go back and
Buy more
reinvest. Yes.
and reinvest.
And
Okay.
that's what businessmen do.
Okay. How are GMOs regulated and tested for safety before they enter the market?
Okay. So in Ghana, we have a National Biosafety Authority that came into being in 2011 with the passage of the Biosafety Act, Act A31. And a scientist like me that wants to work, for example, on GMOs would need permission from them. So I have to apply. When I apply, they take it to a body known as Technical Advisory Committee that's made up of experts from various fields, and these are independent people. They are Ghanaians like you and I,
Okay.
and they will assess. If I'm to bring a gene construct to you right now, you would see that just a circular thing, but they know, okay, this is where the gene itself is. This is where you have the marker gene. This is where we have the starts gene, the end gene. Those are the things that they know, and so they are going to assess it, and then they make recommendations to the board of the NBA, who would either approve or not approve, and that has been in place since 2011. Every GMO that has been approved in Ghana currently has gone through this process.
Okay. What are the potential benefits of GMOs in terms of agri productivity, nutrition, and sustainability?
Good. So our farmers are facing a lot of challenges: disease, pests, weeds, and we've not gone there yet, but we can actually go into improved nutrition. So You hear fortify this, fortify that, fortify that.
I've heard that recently.
Yes, there's a lot of fortification because if you're eating cassava, for example, fufu, it's essentially starch.
Yes.
Okay, and you would have to augment it with some vegetables in your soup,
Yeah.
and then some nice goat or cow meat
or fish.
something. Yes.
Yeah.
But what if cassava had a little more protein in there, so that you don't have to buy, you don't have to.
So we'll buy fufu raw, just soup. No,
we
nam.
are not saying that. We are just saying let's increase the protein content a little, so that if I produce gari, and I'm doing soakings, I mean I have a little more protein than it typically would have.
Okay.
Those are the kinds of benefits you're looking with GMOs.
That's the fortification.
Yes, that's one.
Okay.
But the reality with agriculture right now is that our farmers are aging, our lands are depleting, but we have to feed more mouths. You look at the population of Ghana just 30 years ago, we're about 16 million.
Now we're
As
30.
we speak,
30
we're
and above.
about 30 something million.
Yeah.
In 30 years, we've doubled our population. Imagine 30 years from now. The lands that were previously being used to grow our crops are either subject of galamsey or they are being used for housing or being used for roads or for something else. Our agricultural land is depleting. If we actually want to sustain agriculture the way we have it, we need to have improved technology.
Yeah. Okay. Can GMOs help address global food security challenges, particularly in the face of climate change and population? I think you've touched on that.
Yes, I've touched on that.
Okay. How do farmers perceive and use GMO crops in the operations? Do you know?
It's beautiful. I've been around the country more than 3 or 4 times, about 4 times. And I've been to villages where you never knew existed in Ghana.
Okay.
And whenever we talk about these technologies with them, they trust us as scientists because we've been working with them. It's not GMOs that is going to make us work with farmers.
You always have.
We've always been working with them. We've been coming out with these new varieties, and the farmers are eager for it. I was telling a group last week that if you look at cocoa, when Tetakwashi brought cocoa, if you look at the length of time it took for you to get 1 pod, and you look at the length of time it takes to get 1 pod for cocoa now, you would see the relationship scientists have had with farmers.
So now, if we're to increase yield, GMO can play a role.
It is one of the technologies that we need to look at.
Has it already been deployed?
So currently, the Savannah Agric Research Institute has applied to the National Seed Council and is waiting for approval.
Okay.
Once they get approval, that GM
We'll look towards that.
Yes.
And that won't change the taste and quality.
In fact, when you apply for a permit, it's one of the key things that the NBA is looking at. If your objective was not to change the taste, then we expect it to taste the same, to look the same, but the only difference may be to act differently on the farm.
Okay.
Yes.
Or even taste better.
If it tastes better, I mean, who doesn't like good taste?
I recently heard of China also growing cocoa. Is that a GMO version?
No, that's not a GMO version. That's not a GMO version.
You sure?
But yes, I'm very positive. You know, it's all about acclimatizing the plant to your environment. If you try to grow cocoa in Accra, you and I know it's going to be very difficult to establish a proper cocoa farm. But if you have it in an environment that is a bit tropical, you go outside Accra, you have that. You can. So they just need to have the right environment. But you can also condition plants to environments, and that's what they are doing.
And that's not GMO.
That's not GMO.
Okay, it's called conditioning.
I'm saying okay. So it's one of the things.
Okay.
It's a breeding mechanism. You can breed a plant to be able to survive somewhere.
Okay, that's fine. What role do GMOs play in reducing pesticide and herbicide use in agriculture?
So, in agric, one of the key things that farmers face is controlling insects. The food you like, the insect also has to eat. Yes, and so farmers all over the world are forced, whether they are doing organic or they are doing conventional, they have to have a means to control pests. Otherwise, you may end up losing, for example, with cowpea, up to 80% if you have insect infestation on your farm. So what farmers are looking for is a plant that is already immunized. You and I are immunized against childhood killer diseases.
Yep.
So if you're exposed to that, you may get just some mild symptoms, but for it to proceed to death, very, very minimal. And that's what we are trying to do with plants. Let's have plants that are able to, on their own, produce these crystals or these chemicals that are able to kill insects. And that's one of the key things that people have challenges with. But let me give you a scenario. You take dewormers, right? Does the dewormer kill you?
No.
What does the dewormer kill?
Kills the worm.
Why is the dewormer killing the worm and not you?
Conditioned to kill the worm.
Good. So that's what we do with GMOs when we are doing these insect resistance traits. We are conditioning the plant to produce a crystal protein that exists in nature to kill the insect, but will not kill you, because the insect's alimentary canal is alkaline. It's basic. You and I, we are acidic. So it enters, it's neutralized. And that's the beauty of it.
I see. Okay. Are there any long-term consequences or risk associated with widespread adoption of GMO crops?
Yes, so over 30 years that we've been consuming GMOs, there has not been any credible report of anybody eating GMO and being affected.
Have there been incredible reports?
Well, there was one incredible one from, I think, Spain. They talked about someone eating a tomato that was GM. And bear in mind, there was no tomato that was GM then, and he fell sick, and it was a wild goose chase because there was no GM tomato anywhere. And Francis, I've been eating GMs when I travel. I've eaten GMs in South Africa, in the US, wherever I go. I actually look out
Maybe
for
the
them.
effects are later, not now.
Oh well, we live to die, right?
Okay.
Oh yes, something would definitely happen, but
Something must kill a man.
it has to be something sweet.
What's the outlook of GMO tech in Ghana, and how might it continue to evolve in the coming years? That's my last question.
Yeah. So the beautiful thing is that our universities are increasingly teaching biotech. There's universities that are teaching agricultural biotech. There are institutions that are carrying out research on biotech, and there are products that are coming out. And so I see a bright future in this area for people who are willing to accept the technology.
Yeah.
I also see a bright future for our farmers to be able to prepare for the eventualities. Climate change, it's supposed to rain, it doesn't rain. It's raining, and it's raining heavily. Can we have these crops that are able to withstand these challenges that we will face in the future?
All right. Dr. Daniel Osofusua, thank you for your time for joining us this morning.
Thank you too.
Research scientist, Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, joining us. And our science fact for today: GMOs are engineered to express traits like resistance to pests, he's mentioned, disease, and tolerance to herbicides. Okay, I hear you. I thank you for your time for joining us. My last stop before I say goodbye is, everyone who knows me knows I'm a read buff. And every time there's a caravan relating to reading, I got a